Assalamu alaikum. It's your brother Haq Islam, and welcome to this week's edition of The Oasis. From our Atlanta studios, so fresh and so clean, I have an important guest here, somebody that I truly admire, have been watching him for quite some time. Brother Shareef Abdul Malik, who is the CEO of Naspora and formerly known as We Buy Black. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How you doing?
Brother, I know you don't do this often, so I'm very happy that you came and graced us with your presence. So let's get right into it. What was your path to Islam?
I was born Muslim. My father, he converted in 1972. He was about 16 years old.
So he came in under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yeah. So he joined the Nation of Islam in 1972.
The mosque on New Jersey Avenue?
Yes, in Washington, D.C. That's correct.
Yeah, so you're from Washington, D.C.?
Born and raised.
Exactly.
You're born and raised in D.C., Yes, sir. Southeast D.C.
D.C. made me a man.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. It's either going to make you or break you, huh? It's going to be either one. Yeah.
No, continue, brother. So you were born and raised. What was life like growing up as a Muslim in Washington, D.C.?
Well, it was easy for me. I come from a two-parent household. Islamic values were instilled in me. I attended Clara Muhammad School in Washington, D.C. That was that's also in Southeast, but in Anacostia. Like anybody who grows up in D.C., you're going to see a lot,
especially during that time.
The Islamic environment, I was insulated with the Islamic environment. So a lot of that did not really affect or touch me. I think if anything, it sort of shaped me so far as like, having a backbone, because, when I think about my parents, my father in particular, anytime there was some sort of injustice, I always watched him sort of put his life out there, I could remember growing up and, he used to vend, and I remember, maybe somebody doing us wrong. I remember like a Chinese lady at one of the corner stores not paying me what she's supposed to get, not giving me my refund or my change back, the correct amount of change. And I remember my father, actually going over there and, and protesting in a sense, but making it very clear that she should give up that money, and she did. I remember, seeing people, threaten. I remember a woman threatened a man, and my father, or a woman threatened a man. That was one case, and then a man threatened a woman. That was a whole nother case. But I remember him putting himself out there. People, cursing around us. I remember growing up, and I remember a man. He was sliced all up. I mean, like he had cuts everywhere. And I remember him having this big dagger in his hand. And he was talking about how he was going to kill another man. But he was already bloody. And I just remember my father, like, challenging him, like really close him in his face, challenging him and telling him, like, I got my children right here, And that was my first time ever seeing something like that. So
how old were you?
I might have been like between 5 and 7.
So this was a vivid memory.
It's a very vivid memory. And I have a lot of memories like that of, like, manhood.
How many siblings?
In total, now it's 8. I got to say that because my father's 70. He's getting ready to turn 70 in April. But me and him just had a child last year, 10 months ago. So he's still kind of kicking, Yeah, I thought I was going to be the youngest for 32 years, and then, hey, things change,
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
We got to interview your father.
Yeah, he's special, he's something special, man, Now, my mother, on the other hand, she passed away in 2019. But my mother was a very peaceful, loving woman. She was like she definitely like had a green thumb. I remember, so my father was like very, provoking, he's very challenging, and my mother was very calm,
So the
patient.
thesis and the antithesis.
Exactly. In my household, it was a balance that I think that, just in my life, I was able to take from the best of both of them. I believe some things that I kind of got that I ain't as proud of. Well, sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah,
you got to pull it out when it's
you
necessary.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
So where'd you go to school?
Well, I went to Claire Muhammad there in D.C., but then for high school, my parents sent my brother, and my sister, they sent us to Atlanta here, and we attended Muhammad High Schools here. So, they had some years of public school, but I didn't. So I went from Claire Muhammad in D.C. to Claire Muhammad in Atlanta, and then when I graduated from Claire Muhammad in Atlanta, or Wharf D. Muhammad High School in Atlanta, then I went to Howard University.
I think you want to say that one more time. Where'd you go, brother?
Yeah, HU. I went to Howard.
You know.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, yeah. So Howard.
What'd you study?
Like most of us, I studied sociology, and I don't know if it was actually a major, but it was a focus of mine of community development. There was like some courses around community development.
But that was your first experience outside of a Muslim school.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
And what was it like at HU?
I'm 33, so this is 2010 to 2014. So 2010 to 2014. So Howard was, it was going through a transition. Like the area was going through a transition. Like you definitely start to see, gentrification.
Gentrification.
Yeah, you definitely.
You remember who the president was?
Obama.
No, not the president.
There. No. I'm like, I believe it was Obama. I could be wrong. No, I don't. That's interesting. No,
well, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it was a lot of changes in D.C. Like I remember a woman running, a white woman running down the street, and her shirt said, "I run D.C." or maybe "We run D.C." And I register that differently. Like she's running. It looked like she might have been a part of some
club
group. Yeah, she's in a run club. But it for me it meant something else. I felt like there was definitely something else under that. But it could have just been innocent. It just could have been a shirt. But this is definitely a time in DC where you saw a lot of changes. A lot of buildings. I left DC just for a short while. When I came back, my father, he was driving me around. He's like, where you at? And I'm like, nah, where we at? He was like, this Minnesota Avenue. I'm like, Minnesota Avenue? I couldn't believe it, but that was a street that essentially I grew up on. A lot of buildings, a lot of construction. I think DC, when I was attending Howard, it was like it had more cranes in DC than any other city. Yeah. So there was a lot of development happening. And I remember my neighbors. I had a neighbor who lived down the street. This is Ridge Road. He lived off of Ridge Road in Southeast. I forgot why I was visiting him. Maybe I was selling something, but I remember him telling me that he was getting ready to sell his home, and he was looking forward to selling it to a Caucasian man.
He was looking
forward to it. Like he was saying, this is what I want to do. And he was saying like he can't wait to make some money, from that. And, so that was just, this was me being able to see like, okay, DC is definitely changing, and we definitely had our part, in ensuring that it did change.
What was your first taste of entrepreneurship?
That definitely came from my father. Like he always would vend at different events, vend on the street. So I remember I was 12 years old and I asked him to set me up in business, and he gave me this little kit of oils, and people know, like you Muslim in DC and you are an entrepreneur, you probably gonna be selling oils, you know what I mean? At
or
some
incense.
Point. Or incense, or a combination of both. So I had me my little package and everything, and I would go around and sell oils, and then eventually, as I got a little older, I set up a stand, out front of my house, and that was the street is Alabama Avenue, but it turns into Bowen Road as it start to go into PG County. So I would set up my stand there, and it was a lot of traffic, and I remember being disappointed that I wasn't getting any sales. So many cars, but not a lot of sales. And you know, what I did was, you know, I took out a book and started counting my no's, you know, and every car that drove by, I just, you know, considered that like a no, you know, and every car that stopped, I considered that a yes. And I don't remember the numbers, but it was like, you know, 1,000+ cars, you know what I mean, 1 or 2 sales. So I started to decorate, you know, the stand and had some dresses out there, you know, and ask people what they wanted. You know, women will say, oh, you need to have some dresses out here. It's the summertime, you know, that would definitely capture our attention. So I started to add that. And next thing you know, sales went from 1 or 2 sales a day to 10 to 15, you know, 20 to 30. And while
How
I was
old were
like,
you?
maybe about 14, maybe 15, you know, and, you know, I started to have like, you know, my first, you know, $200, $300, $500 days, you know, right around that time. Yeah.
So while you were at HU, you were also doing the entrepreneur thing.
Yeah, I was, because I decided to, I wanted to study business while I was at Howard, but I don't know, you know, I think it was like maybe the first or second class I walked out, you know, because at this time I'm married, you know, I don't know if I mentioned that part, but I got married.
Whoa, no, you didn't. Let's back up.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got married while
Yeah.
you were in college,
While I was in high school.
while you were in high school.
Yeah, so at W.D. Muhammad High School here in Atlanta, me and my wife, Zara, we were the first married couple to attend the school. We were 17, and we tried to get married at 16, but they didn't have like the protocol and the procedures in place to allow for something like that. So they had to update the bylaws at the school and basically say that, you know, if students wanted to get married, then they have to like, there was certain criteria that they must meet. So they set that criteria for us, you know, and it was like grade point average had to be like 3.5 and above, and you know, both sides of the families have to be in support, you know, and it was like some other things. I can't remember everything.
Brother, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to marry your wife?
When I first saw her. Yeah, so I was I might have been 14. Yeah, I might have been 14 or 15. I know she was 14.
And
so yeah,
freshman.
we were freshmen. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm sorry, I was a sophomore. And when I saw her, I remember we was in a gym, and it was, you know, she was visiting, you know, with her parents, and I told the young men that was around me, you know, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna marry her, you know. So I was 14 years old when I said that. Yeah.
Is that
14
right?
to 15. Yeah.
And what was the process?
Um.
Because first you had to inform her
Yeah.
that she was going to marry you.
Yeah. So so we started talking. Like, you know, I approached her, and I think maybe, you know, after just, you know, courting with her, or, you know, we would say dating or whatever, you know, I approached her father, you know, and I told him.
And how old were you?
I might have been 15 or 16 when I approached
So
him.
you were very intentional.
Yeah, I always been that way. So, you know, if it's right, I'm not ashamed of it. You know what I mean? So, and I felt like I was doing the right thing. You know, I was interested in his daughter. I knew by that time I wanted to marry her. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I did know younger people in Atlanta that were getting married, but they were like, you know, 19, 20. But some of those same people, I was, you know, they were like my mentors. You know, I was learning from them. You know, and
so what happened when you approached your father?
You know, it was interesting because when I approached her father, you know, I remember me going up to him like, you know, assalamu alaikum, you know, my name is Shareef. I'm interested in. No, I didn't even tell him my name. That's what it was. You know, I was like, you know, your daughter, you know, Zara, I'm interested in her, you know, for marriage. And I remember him saying, okay, what's your name? You know, I remember him doing that. So I was like, oh man, I'm messed up. So, you know, so I had to bring it back a little bit. I was like, oh, my name is Shareef Abdul Malik. He was like, what's your father's name? I was like, his name Muhammad Abdul Malik. And he was like, he said, man, I think I know your father. You know, he was like, did your father go to Hajj in 1997? I was like, I think that was a year, because I was around 5 years old. He said, yeah, me and your father was Hajj buddies. He's like, that's like my best friend. I said, what? So I called my father on the spot, and I asked him, I was like, do you know a guy named, you know, Emil Bashir? He's like, Emil, yeah, that's my man. You know, we Hajj buddies. Turned out they went to Hajj together. So, you know, so our families were already connected. We just weren't, you know.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you got your father on the phone.
Yeah.
Is the brother next to you when you called him?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, the memory is faint, but I remember.
So did you tell your father your intentions then, or did he already know?
That's a great question. You know, he may not have known. I might have shared it with him right there. You know, yeah, I might have shared it with him right there. yeah. I don't think he knew. Now I think about it. Yeah.
So what did your father say?
He was in support. You know,
is that right?
Yeah, or he was. Yeah, him, my mother, her mother, father. You know, they definitely was in support of us getting married. You know, so much so that we started to meet as a family. You know, her family came to D.C. We came to Ohio. I can't remember. I know I definitely was with her mother and her. I don't know if my father was there. I think he was.
So you're 16.
Yeah, I'm 16. You know, we went and bought a ring. You know, I think I had some money saved up. I did have some money saved up, because by that time I was already in some other ventures, and so it was.
So you're married in high school in Atlanta. So you both go to D.C. together.
Right. So she actually attended Bar College in upstate New York. They had a full ride scholarship. I think it was called Posse. It's something like that. I think it was called the Posse Scholarship. Yeah, I believe that's what it was called. So she had a full ride scholarship to Bar College in upstate New York, and I attended Howard University. I applied for some schools around there, and it didn't work out, but Howard accepted me with open arms.
Yeah.
And that experience was good. I just had to travel a lot. So on the weekends, not
that's
every
difficult
weekend,
on a young marriage.
Oh yeah. It was very difficult. We would talk a lot on the phone. I remember being at Howard, and I remember all of the guys, wanting me to join the frat, some type of fraternity, but I decided not to stay on campus. So I would just commute, every day from Southeast to Northwest DC. I would ride a bike or catch the train. And I remember a lot of the guys, just sort of trying to get me to go to parties and things like that. But that wasn't me, and
so you had
I'm married,
Islam, your parents, the whole experience gave you a level of maturity.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So definitely I was mature. I was at Howard, and I was wearing, a painter's uniform because I used to paint homes, and interior, exterior painting. That's the work of my father. That was another thing that he did. So, and that was another reason why when I was at the business school, I think that first year in business, when I was attending Howard, I might have been doing in the painting business, I was doing around $250,000, and that was between me and my father. And I'm listening to this professor, talk about business, and I was impatient, I was immature, and I got up and left. And,
no, brother, that was my experience too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was a political science major, but I went in as a business major, right? And he was giving all this just theoretical stuff. Mm-hmm. I was a DJ in New York, so I was making money.
Right.
And I raised my hand because it didn't sound right. I said, "Do you own a business?"
I did the same thing. That's crazy, yeah.
And he said no.
Yep.
And I got up and walked out the class.
That's exactly what I did.
That's exactly
I did the exact same thing. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I asked the professor, do you own a business? And he said
no.
I got up and walked out. Yeah, that's exactly my experience.
That's exactly what I did.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I
never met anybody else with that experience. So that's interesting.
Exactly my experience. Because while I was on campus, I was throwing parties. I was hustling. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Concerts, whatever. And that's the protocol I brought from New York. Yeah. It was a business ethic.
Yeah.
Now I didn't have the practical side.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I was making money.
Yeah. I wish, looking back, I wish I would have, and maybe he could have even mentioned this, but, if you're already in business, then, take the lessons from this class and apply it to your business.
That was his responsibility. Yeah. Now, we both know Allah's the best knower, so you weren't supposed to be in that class.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have been. Exactly,
to. So let's get into starting We Buy Black.
Okay, yeah.
How'd that come about?
So studying sociology, community development at Howard, we used to go over community statistics, neighborhood stats, We went over like stats for like the African American community, you know, and I remember, you know, reading that, you know, we had the highest poverty rate in the city and joblessness rate
in DC.
in DC, you know, crime, you know, imprisonment, you know, and that kind of just sat in the back of my head. So I knew I always wanted to do something, you know. I in fact, like there was a post, you know, like Facebook give you like these highlights from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a post on when I was 16, and I said something to the extent of like, I don't know what I want to do in the future, but I know I want to do something to support my community. You know, so I was around like 16 years old, and that just remained true. So when I was maybe a year right after Howard, I was in so my sophomore year at Howard, my wife got pregnant. So when she got pregnant, she took 2 years off of her school at Bar College. She came to DC and you know, had the baby in DC, and you know, and our son was about 1 year old when I graduated, and then we moved to New York so that she could finish her education.
Mm-hmm.
So while she was in school, I was at home watching my son.
Why was it important to you for your wife to finish?
Well, she definitely didn't want to finish. Like, she didn't even want to go back. Her experience wasn't as good.
Because it was a PWI?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm at Howard, you know, so, you know, I got a lot of good stories and everything like that, you know. And her experience was just totally different, you know. And it was a very liberal school, too. So just like a lot of fundamental things that we believe in as Muslims, you know, they, you know, maybe a lot of what they do today that we don't agree with, it seemed like it started there. That's like, it's like that was a testing ground, was at the college, you know. But yeah, so she just didn't have the best experience. And, you know, I don't know, something told me to just really push her to finish.
But see, the reason why I'm pushing that is because this dispels so many myths that the Muslim man suppresses, oppresses his
yes.
woman, his wife.
Yes.
And I see you
Yes.
saying, no,
Yeah.
you know, baby, you got to finish.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
and then you said, at the same time, I'm taking care of the baby.
Absolutely, yeah. And I had no problem with it, you know. So like when we were up there, I had a few savings. I had some savings. The savings dried out. When the savings dried out, you know, I went, and I remember like driving around looking for work. This would be the first time I would have ever taken a job, and I was about 18. No, I'm sorry. I was about 21. So this would have been the first job I ever had. And I remember Chick-fil-A was hiring. And when I looked in the window, it was like, you know, 15, 16-year-olds. And I'm like, and they were all, you know, Caucasian. I'm like, yeah, this ain't, up there in that part of New York, I was like, yeah, this ain't for me. And so I remember I went to Kinko's or whatever it was, some, you know, FedEx or something like that. And I had these boards printed out saying, you know, I paint homes. And I started to post them all across the city. But, you know, then I noticed that no one painted their home in that city, you know. So I had to come up with something else. And I'm like, okay, I definitely don't want to do anything involving electricity, you know. But I noticed that roofing was a big issue there, and people can't escape that, you know, their whole house going to collapse. So I studied roofing online on YouTube. And in fact, you know, I actually, before I studied it, you know, I just put out a few ads saying that, you know, this is what I could do. I got a call, went up on one of these very old Victorian homes, got up to the top, and it was like this big gaping hole. And the guy asked me if I could fix it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, so while I was up there, I was looking at YouTube like, okay, how you fix this thing? You know, I got down and I was like, yeah, it's going to cost you $350. And he was like, okay, sure. Like, when can you get it done? I'm like, oh, I get it done today, you know. So, you know, went to Home Depot, got the equipment that I needed, and I finished the job in like 30 minutes, you know, 30 minutes to an hour. And I was like, okay, so this is the field I need to be in. So I started doing roofs on the weekend, you know, and I had a crew, you know, I probably had like maybe 5, 6 guys, and, you know, experienced some racism, a lot of racism up there, actually.
Who made up your crew?
Yeah, right. So no one was African-American, I don't think. No, I didn't have any guys with me. There was like one Cherokee, Native American guy, who was Muslim. There was 2 Irish guys, and then there's just like some other people that were just with them. So it was about a total of like 5 or 6 of us. Yeah. So,
Alhamdulillah, your father instilled in you entrepreneurship.
yeah,
That's where it came from.
yeah.
And then we also have to give credit to, Islam, his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
right.
and because that spirit is all the way in you, 100%.
Yeah,
all right, now let's get back to We Buy Black.
Yeah. So We Buy Black, when I graduated Howard, when I was up there in upstate New York, I started looking into some things that I could do to help really support, our community, and I remember listening to a lecture from, Imam W.D. Muhammad, and he said that you all are looking for a market. He said, your market is right next to you. He said, look at your brother to your left, look at your sister to your right. He said, that's your market. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that's true. Like, because I knew some people that were in business, so I'm like, let me pull these people together, put us on the website, very similar to Amazon, and we could just shop with each other. And I remember me pitching an idea to some guys that I knew, and they're like, yeah, that's too small. They were like, yeah, our community is not enough. They were like, you need to like cast that net bigger, and go after the whole black community.
What year was this?
This was 2015. So I spent the summer learning how to put together a website. Built the first website, crowdfunded. I built the first website. It crashed when we had everybody to come to it because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I raised about $30,000, and then we had a brother in the community built a new website that sustained. We circulated like our first million on that site, and that was the promise to the community. I said, you all can help us raise the $30,000. I promise you, we're gonna circulate at least 1 million on the platform. We cleared the first 1 million, and then we upgraded the site, and then it was just on from there, But my main interest was that, I looked at it and I said, okay, well, African American, black folk in America, we hired our people at a higher ratio than any other group. And we could see that. You come into our business, we don't see it. Now it's a little different, but you're talking 10, 15 years ago, we always hired our own. And before then, and when I noticed that, I said, okay, well, if we have the highest ratio of hiring our own, and we were the second largest hiring agent within our community outside of the government, so the government will be first, hence why, there's a government shutdown, our community, we in trouble.
Yeah, cripples us.
Yeah, because we all work for the government, or many of us do. But outside of that, we work for each other. And I said, well, if I could, concentrate our dollars within our group and help redistribute those funds back to us, that would ensure that a lot of these businesses are sustained, that they're healthy, they can employ their own, right? They could have,
so you just outlined the purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Give me the purpose in a thesis statement.
So the purpose of We Buy Black was to essentially redistribute the funds, the 1 trillion dollars, whatever it was back then, back into our community to help sustain our families and community.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that was the purpose.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's so since 2015 to now.
Right.
It's been thriving.
Yeah, so it's been 10 years. Yeah. So 2015, but I could say this, from 2015 to about 2018, it was a struggle. We weren't making anything. I don't think we profited until like 2019.
But that's business.
Yeah, that's business.
Because now most of what we do here, we inspire and we educate.
Right.
Right. So I don't want people to think, it's an overnight.
No
business is overnight.
No. Well, and what kept me going really, because I was still painting. So I would just I would be losing money with We Buy Black, but I would go and paint a home, and put that money back in it so I could pay some of the people on the team and, keep things rolling, but what really kept me going is that, I would have like all type of stories, man. College students, calling me like, man, thank you, man. I made it pay for my books and, do what I need to do. I had fathers and mothers call me, I'm a single mother and, your platform really helped me. Fathers, same thing. But I had like, stories where people like cleared millions of dollars, right? And, I remember a lady called me and she was like, look, I brought in like all of this inventory of book bags and I don't know how I'm gonna get rid of it. And, my marketing that I'm currently doing is not working. And I'm like, okay, say no more. Like that's one thing we got on lock is marketing your business. I put a product on our platform, reached out to our community, and we had a number of celebrities, that was following us, and she cleared $1 million in 2 months just from selling book bags.
Alhamdulillah.
And we had a lot of different stories like that. Like our greatest success was helping a telecommunications company, as they reported to me that when they approached me, for business, they were doing around $2 million a year. But after like our campaigns, by the end of that year, they reached out to me and told me that they cleared 50 million. So, we were like, our main thing was like, look, we got a huge community, right? And our community is very supportive. But a big part of why we don't support is because we really just don't know that we exist.
Absolutely.
Right? And that was a big thing, like I would ask questions like, is there a black-owned bread company? And everybody's just like not commenting because they don't know. The next thing you know, there's somebody.
Is there a black-owned bread company?
Yeah. I think it's actually called like Black Bread. Something like that,
So how did We Buy Black evolve to Naspora, and what does Naspora mean?
So before I started We Buy Black, I knew I was going to change the name. I consulted with a few people. Everybody was saying, don't choose the name We Buy Black, right? It's ephemeral, it's short-lived, like go with something else. And I'm like, yeah, but it's, bold, daring, it's unapologetic. And that's exactly like the type of energy I'm about to bring to this, right? So I kept the name. But the name actually went against, I would say, like my religious teachings in a sense. Our leader, Imam Muhammad, he really discouraged the use of the term black. Now he would use it, but it wasn't like a term that he preferred. And he wasn't really comfortable with any name that, that we were given or assigned, but, I think he made a mention that one day we just going to have to be comfortable. We'll have to be comfortable with just being called Muslim, so when I even started it, I knew like eventually this may cause a problem for me. So 5 years in, I said, like at the end of 5 years, I said I would change the name. But at the end of from 2015 to 2020, 5 years, I was going to change the name. But 2020 happened. And now you're talking COVID, summer protests with George Floyd. Everyone was locked in the house and everyone had to shop online and everybody was talking about buying black. So this was a time where, you talking about millionaires being made. It was like happening everywhere around me. Everybody was making money. And I just, saw a report that from 2017 to 2022, there was a 56% increase in black-owned businesses. There was also like a 50% decrease because of the COVID. So there was like a huge spike in black-owned businesses, but at the same time, there was like an additional, like a surplus of $220 billion, circulating in our community. So, I got to a point where when 2020 happened, I'm thinking this is, represent new vision, all of these different type of things. So I told myself, I said, okay, here's the deal. I'll wait till the 9th year, and 9 representing completion. I'll change the name. And that's what I did. I changed to Naspora. Naspora means, so Nas is all people in Arabic, Nas. Like we say, Kula a'udu bi rabbin nas, right? So Nas means all human beings, all mankind. And the Pora is pulling from diaspora. And it's really to say that all human beings are part of one diaspora, that we all will agree that we are from one ancestry, one parent origin. And from that, we all were dispersed or displaced or traveled for whatever reasons to different parts of the world. And that's what shaped us to be darker or lighter, or taller or shorter. But I felt that it was necessary to introduce new language that would kind of clean up the old language that I saw that was becoming a problem for us in our community.
But really, brother, it was an extension. So I don't want you to beat
That's right.
yourself up. It was an extension
right.
because, you shouldn't end up where you began.
That's right.
You have to evolve in
That's
life.
true.
So
That's
let's
what it
do
was.
it. Now, I see that pretty box there. You want to bring that box up?
So
You know?
this right here is the Naspora Box. As you can see, that we have a lot of our leaders here, and
It's beautiful.
oh man, I appreciate it. So we got a campaign where we are we're pushing and campaigning to sell 40 million of these boxes, and inside of this box is product that is from our community, primarily African American and Muslim owned product. So you have cotton swabs, you have browndages. A lot of people heard about this company. They were on Shark Tank.
What is a brownage?
Brownage is this is like it's like a Band-Aid or
really?
a bandage. Yeah, it's like a Band-Aid or a bandage. See, Band-Aid been in existence for 100 years.
Yeah,
I
but
think
Band-Aid, they were made for white
That's
skin.
right.
Yeah.
We all grew up with that little pale thing on us, right? So, but after 100 years, then you have brownages. So brownages is like different, skin tones. So it kind of captures like all of us. I think if I use the mocha, you won't even see it on me, right?
It's beautiful.
Lupita wore it. She wore the darkest one, and you didn't see it on her. So it's just like it's that's what we need, right? So this right here is Exact Shave Razors. They based out of Atlanta, shaving razors. This brother reached out to us recently, so we getting him in a box. We placing an order of about 1,000 of these Mansa Essentials. These are like wipes, just cleaning wipes. We have storage bags, laundry detergent, true laundry detergent. We got batteries. We got bar soap.
Got toilet tissue.
Toilet tissue, yeah, leafy.
Black owned, black made.
That's right.
Toilet tissue.
That's right. Yeah, these brothers.
Where they out of?
They're out of Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, these two brothers, they're campaigning to actually open up a toilet tissue manufacturing plant in Columbus. So we want to definitely support them.
So, brother, how much is the box, and how does one get in the box?
So the box is we have different levels. So it's a $50 box. So the minimum is $50 box, or around $50, and then it's 50, 100, 150, 200. And
now I got some products, Brother Hawk sells.
No, okay. What kind of product you got? I didn't know that.
No, we have fragrances, we have soap.
Okay.
We have a health product.
Oh man,
yeah.
Come on, we selling these boxes.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna get it to you. I'm gonna get it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's about.
Hold it up proud so that can show that thing. Show it loud.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Say it loud. Just show it. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
We're very excited about this. A lot of
so
people
it's a $50 box, $150 box, $250 box.
We just fill it up with. So if you order the $50 box, we fill it up with $50 worth of product. If you order the $200 box, we fill it up with $200 worth of product.
So it's 40 million. What's the time frame?
So I'm saying 4 years.
4 years. 40 million to 10 million a year.
That's right. Yeah.
When did it start?
About a month ago. Not even a month. Not even a whole month. Yeah. So maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Well, brother, we definitely want to be a part of it, and we want to make sure we want to help promote it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, brother, before there's a few things, because you're a very, very interesting brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Talk to me about your family. So we heard about one child.
Yeah. So
where you at now?
Yeah. So I have in total I have 5 children.
Alhamdulillah.
And 2 wives. So my wife Zara, like I told you, her real name, like the way you pronounce it, is Zahra. That's Arabic, right? But her parents call her Zara, so I call her Zara too. But me and her, we've been married for, in fact, next week we celebrate 16 years. Yeah, so we celebrate 16 years. Alhamdulillah, and we have 4 children together. The oldest is getting ready to turn 13 in 2 weeks, and the youngest of ours is 4. She might beat me up about that. Yeah, 4. Yeah, 4. And then I'm married. Layla is going on 2 years in January. January will mark 2 years. So in total, I'm 33 and, about to be married for a total of 18 years, and we have 1 child together. His name is Muhammad. So Muhammad is the youngest. And then you have Nahar, who's right over. She's 4. Yami is 5. Sawaz 8, and Falaz 12.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about teaching young brothers.
Yeah.
I see that on your space. And there was something that I want you to talk about is what it takes to be a man.
So I think that whenever I try to define anything, I try to come from scripture because I don't want to, give anything my definition or some man-made definition. So in Quran, God says, "Ar-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa," and it's interpolated to mean that the men are the protectors and maintainers of the women, and there are multiple ways that you can protect and maintain women, and I believe in that, in all parts of that, and I believe that should be explored, that should be studied. That may be considered a soft science, but it's still a science. And I think that the more that we treat it as such, as a science, and we go to it with that level of intention, then I think that there's going to be more that we're going to be able to pull out when it comes to like what exactly is a man. But if we don't, in my opinion, if we don't want to miss the mark, and we don't want to do the wrong thing, I think that the best man is Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think if we study him, we study his ways, we study how he was with his companions. The way he talked to one companion was different than the way he talked to another. And today they would call that emotional intelligence.
Same thing with his wives.
It's the same thing with his wives, exactly. He had a very healthy, balanced relationship with them. He even said that the best of you are those who are best to their wives, and I am best to mine. I am the best to my wives. So I hold that, I believe in it. So even when it came to like even me marrying another woman, marrying my second wife, it was the same thing. It's like I knew brothers that were doing it, but I didn't see a lot of them doing it correctly. I love y'all, no offense, but it just was, it was what it was. And they would say, oh, well, you should, stay with one of them, for 3 days and another one for the next 3 days. And my thing was, well, how did the Prophet do it? So I always try to approach it like that. And it just has not failed me, right? I'm not looking for it to fail me. It just has not failed me. And, I try to approach business like that. I think that a lot of the successes that I've had personally in life has really come from just trying to do things the right way. I made mistakes, but just trying to do things the right way with good intention, not trying to beat nobody, not trying to steal from nobody, not trying to get over. Even in business, it was times where I was really struggling, really trying to make some money. I needed money, but it was a lot of my work was like social work. So there were opportunities I could have definitely taken advantage of people, and I did not, and I did not. And even some things that didn't go as well as I wanted to go, even to this day, I still work on that. I will still check in with people, say, listen, I know we were supposed to do this, and and that might have been something that happened 2-3 years ago. And because I kept that line there of communication, I still do business with those people.
Brother, you collect art.
I do collect art. Yeah. How you know that? Yeah.
Do my research.
Okay, I'm about to say, did I post my art? Yeah, I collect art. Absolutely.
Why are you passionate about it?
I love colors. When I was younger, people say, "What's your favorite color?" I say all colors. I love colors. I probably would wear pink and purple and all of those colors. I don't really have a problem with that. I love colors. And I love how you see colors take shape and have rhythm in creation. You see it in birds, you see it in fish, you see it in the clouds.
All throughout nature.
You just see it all throughout. You see it when in fall time, right? Like just the beautiful colors. And there's certain places you could go. Like you go to Detroit right now, like the trees. I mean, it's just beautiful.
DC
is just beautiful. And so I painted. I always felt like I could paint. And it was only 18 when I first picked up a paintbrush and painted something. And I painted a picture, and I remember the person who saw me painting it, she was like, "Oh, I want to buy that off of you." And the second paint I did was it was purchased from a collector in DC, and they offered me $3,500 for a painting that took me 8 hours to do. And it was the second time I ever picked up a paintbrush. But then when my wife got pregnant, I never picked it up again. I never like had the desire to paint. I felt like I had to roll up my sleeves and go make some money, some real money in that case. No disrespect to the artists out there, but just I couldn't do that. I needed something guaranteed. And so I always had a love for art. And I figured that if I'm not going to paint, I'm definitely going to support some artists because you got some amazing, artists out there, and I buy their art.
Well, mashallah, it's in your future.
Yeah, definitely.
Inshallah.
Yeah. One day, I kick my feet up and play some Sade, like some incense.
There you go.
I get back at it. Yeah,
brother. We try to be inspirational and instructional to the generation that comes behind us.
For sure.
So, what kind of advice do you want to give to the young brothers and sisters out there?
Yeah. So, not to be cliche, I think like I mentioned this a little earlier, but if we want to, as a community, if we, as an individual, as a family, as a community, if we want to get rid of, these moments of trial and error, then we should be very intentional of doing things the way that Muhammad the Prophet did them. God gave us as a mercy, and he should be studied properly. And whatever it is that we're doing, if it's how you're treating your wife, sisters, if it's how you're treating your husbands, Muhammad the Prophet was not a model for men, like a man. He was a model for humans. And if we accept that, we will start to see many benefits in our life. And it doesn't matter if you're old or young. I think that's the greatest advice. That's the advice that I try to give myself every day. And it's really working for me, man. Like, I don't know how to stress that. I think that in our community, we don't really want to really be held accountable. And I think when we have a model in front of us that we can accept, then that's something that we could be, it gives us a criteria of how we should be. And therefore we measure up to that. So we have Muslims who they may not say this, but they don't believe in accepting Muhammad the Prophet as a model. Because if they have to accept him as a model, then they have to be held accountable. And we shouldn't run away from accountability, because God is the best of judges, and we all going to be held accountable. So it's better that we use the model that he gave us now, and get behind that particular pattern. As in the Quran, it says his uswatun hasana. We should get behind that particular pattern, that excellent balance and mode of life, and we should emulate it to the best of our ability. And I think that if we do that, if our leaders projected, like, put that out there and told the community, like, this is not just like, Dicker, but no, like, how did he do business? He did business. How did he treat his wives? Because that's, this is a real thing. How did he raise his children? And then let's not forget, he also went to battle. Muhammad the Prophet went to battle, and he was no chump. Mm-hmm. So when we see people coming into our communities, I'm talking about, like, we black. So we got somebody coming into our community that is harming our community, whether it's, through music, through food, or just actually, physically trying to shoot up something. We got to be prepared to go to battle, and I think that if we have enough of us, men and women like that, we would naturally get into a mode that all of the issues that we face in the black community, we'll be the first to get rid of that.
Yeah, it'd be eliminated.
Absolutely. What issue does the African American have that the religion of Al-Islam does not answer? I can't think of one. Yeah, so I can't think of one. And if it was just a group of us, 10, 15 of us that just got in one little neighborhood, I could guarantee you we won't have single women. We won't have babies growing up without daddies. These are things that we deal with in our community.
Crime will be eliminated.
We won't have no crime. We'll end all of that. We won't have drugs in that neighborhood. All of the things that affect our community. 80% of those that are incarcerated, they're incarcerated due to a drug and alcohol related activity. So when we vote for our mayors of these cities, if they're not talking about these things and they're allowing for these things to infiltrate our community, knowing that we're the first ones that are susceptible to the nature of those particular crimes, then we just enrolling our people into prison. We setting ourselves up for failure. No, like this religion gives it really calls us back to the natural demands that our life have on us. Your life tell you that alcohol is not good for you. Your life tell you that cigarettes and weed is not good for you. Your life have it's just certain demands. Your life tell you that filth. You're not like when a baby is born and it pees and poops on itself, it cries. It don't want to sit in filth. So our neighborhood should be clean. You could study the baby really, and it would and from studying babies, like a singular baby, but then babies in general, it would tell us a lot about how we should be. Going back to Naspora, babies speak the same language. You had people who studied the science of baby language, and say if they make this particular sound, it means that they're hungry. If they make this particular sound, and that's not an African baby or European
that's
baby.
Real.
Yeah. So as we are, in our beginning, we should see that coming to fruition, like in at the end of our life. And I see it happening now. There's places I could go right now, and we speak in the same language without even talking. So it's we living in a time where you have people from all walks of life, different religions, that they're saying that we want peace, we want justice, we want equality. And we never had that in the 100 million plus years of human existence, if that's actually how long we've been here.
So, brother, I want you to look in the camera and tell people how they can buy that product and how they can support your brand and support you.
This is Shareef right here with Naspora, formerly We Buy Black. I'm asking everyone to get behind this campaign for us to sell 40 million boxes. We say 40 million because 40 is representing us coming into our maturity, our independence, no different than 40 acres. That this means that we are at a point where we need to be independent, that we don't need anyone in authority over our lives, that we should be in authority of our own life. No one should be dictating what kind of food we're going to eat, what kind of music we're going to listen to. We should be making those decisions over our own life. And I'm asking our whole community to get behind this movement. It's a sincere urge, a sincere call for us to really be established as a people. And I believe that that's my life's work. I believe that I gained gray hair from that. You see me wearing the kufi, I lost hair from this. But even when I thought I could escape it, I can't escape it. And I believe that if we all get behind it, we could get there a lot quicker. Trust the process. Thank you all for the last 10 years that everybody has supported this mission, this movement. We got a long ways to go, but if you don't see benefit for yourself today, just know that it's definitely going to benefit your children. Thank you.
Brother, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming to the Oasis, and we're going to be here to support you in any way that we can.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is wonderful.
We got to get them products in here, man.
We will.
See what you got.
We will. I'm going to make sure you're going to get a box.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, we at a point. So, anybody who got product out there, send it to us. The address is 2730 Sullivan Road, College Park.
Your IG social media information.
So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just search Naspora, NASPORA.co, and you'll find us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, man, thank you. I appreciate
Brothers
it.
and sisters, this was a great episode. I really enjoyed our brother Shareef Abdul Malik. Signing off, the Oasis, your brother Haq Islam. Assalamu alaikum.